The cold darkness Hook seen the night was cruel. The sky was black, filled with heavy clouds. No stars, no moonlight. Only the sound of cold wind moving through the empty valley. The ground was frozen, covered with sharp ice and dead rocks. Nothing lived here. No tree, no plant, no sound of life. Only silence and the endless cold. In this empty land, one figure walked slowly. It was not human. It was an alien mother, thin and weak, her body shaking with every step. She carried a small child in her arms, wrapped in the last piece of cloth. The child was small, too small to fight the freezing wind. His breath was weak, his skin pale, and his little eyes closed as if sleep had already taken him. The mother looked at her child with fear. She knew he could not last long. The cold was too strong, too deadly. She had nothing left to cover him. Her own body burned with pain as the icy air touched her skin. But still, she held the child close, trying to give him warmth from her own body. The valley stretched endless in front of her. She looked around, no shelter, no cave, no fire, nothing that could save them. Her lips trembled as she whispered words in her alien tongue. No one could hear her. No one could answer her prayer. She stopped walking. Her legs were shaking, her body weak. The child coughed softly, a sound so small that it broke her heart into pieces. She pressed her forehead against the child's, closing her eyes. Tears rolled down, freezing on her face. She looked down at the last cloth around the child. It was not enough. The cold wind cut through it like knives. She looked at her own body, then back at her child. She knew what she had to do. With trembling hands, she took off the remaining parts of her own clothing. The icy wind attacked her skin instantly, like blades of glass. She felt pain, sharp and cruel, but she did not stop. She tore the fabric into small pieces and wrapped it around the child. Still not enough. The child shivered, his lips turning blue. Her eyes filled with desperation. There was no wood, no tree, nothing to burn. But she remembered something her people once burned: cloth and skin to make small fire. It was dangerous, painful, but maybe it could save him. She held the pieces of cloth tightly, her hands shaking. She took a small metal stone from her bag. It was the last thing she had. She struck it against another stone. A small spark jumped out. The first spark of hope in the endless night. She tried again. Another spark. Again, until finally a tiny flame was born. She fed the flame with cloth. The fire grew small, but warm. She placed the child near it, careful not to burn him. The weak glow touched his face, and he breathed a little stronger. For a moment, she felt relief. For a moment, she thought maybe he would live. But the fire was small. It would not last. She had no more cloth, no wood, no fuel, nothing. She looked at herself again. Her body was shaking violently in the cold. She had nothing left to give except her own clothing, the last pieces still on her. Her heart raced. She looked at her child one more time. His little hand reached out in sleep, as if searching for warmth. She closed her eyes, tears falling again. Then, with slow hands, she removed the last of her clothes. The cold hit her skin like knives. She felt as if death itself had touched her. But she did not stop. She threw the last fabric into the fire. The flames rose, stronger now. The child was surrounded with warmth. His breathing grew easier, his body less stiff. The firelight reflected in his tiny face, giving him life again. The mother sat beside him, her body naked and freezing. She pulled him close, sharing whatever heat she still had. Her skin burned from the cold, but she did not move. She did not complain. Her eyes never left her child. Minutes passed. The wind grew stronger, howling like a monster around them. The fire fought against it, weak but stubborn. The mother shivered violently, her lips turning blue.
Ow.
she was losing strength. But every time she looked at her child, she found the power to hold on a little longer. The night was endless. The stars refused to shine. The world around them was dead. But in that small circle of firelight, life still fought to exist. A mother, stripped of everything, and her child, too weak to even cry. She whispered again in her alien tongue, her voice low and broken. She was not asking for herself. She was asking for her child. She prayed that someone, anyone, would find them before the fire died. And then, far away in the frozen darkness, there was a sound. A faint sound, the sound of footsteps crunching in the snow. The mother's eyes opened wide. Her heart raced. Someone was out there. But who? A savior or a new danger? The fire flickered. The wind howled. And the alien mother held her child, tighter, waiting, trembling as the footsteps grew louder in the cold night. No clothes, no hope. The fire burned weakly in the cold night. Its small flames fought against the wind, but every gust threatened to kill it. The alien mother sat close, her thin body shivering. She had nothing left on her skin. No clothes, no cover, only the cruel cold cutting into her flesh. Beside her, the child slept. His tiny body moved with slow, shallow breaths. The firelight touched his face, giving him a fragile glow. His lips no longer looked so blue, his skin a little warmer than before. For now, the flames were protecting him, but the mother knew the truth. The fire was dying. The cloth she had burned was almost gone. Soon, the last sparks would vanish, and the darkness would take them again. She wrapped her arms around the child, holding him closer. Her body felt numb. Every part of her skin stung like needles. Still, she pressed the child against her chest, as if trying to push her own life into him. The valley around them was silent. Only the sound of the fire's soft crackle and the howling. Wind filled the air. She lifted her eyes to the horizon. Empty, endless. No shelter. No help. No light except the small flame in front of them. Her mind raced. She thought of her home, her people, the warmth of her village before it was gone. She thought of nights filled with songs, fire, and food. And now, here she was alone, stripped of everything, begging the sky to let her child survive. The mother lowered her head. She pressed her lips to her child's forehead. His skin was cold, but he was alive. That was all that mattered. The fire began to shrink. Small sparks flew up and disappeared into the night. She panicked. Her eyes darted around the frozen ground, searching for anything at all to keep the fire alive. But there was nothing. No wood, no grass, no fuel. Only ice and stone. She reached out her hands toward the flames, trying to cover them, protect them from the wind. The fire burned her fingers, but she did not care. She whispered words in her alien tongue, as if begging the flame itself not to leave her. Her breath came out fast, white mist in the frozen air. Her body shook harder. She was reaching her limit. The cold was stronger than her, stronger than men, anything she had ever known. But still, she refused to let the child go. The boy stirred slightly, a weak cry leaving his lips. His tiny hands moved, searching for warmth. The mother's heart twisted. She hugged him tighter, rocking him slowly, whispering soft sounds to calm him. She did not care if he understood. Her voice was the only shield she could give him now. Minutes felt like hours. The fire dropped lower and lower, until it was no more than glowing red pieces. Darkness pressed around them like a predator, waiting for the last light to die. The mother's body trembled violently. Her skin had lost all feeling, and her lips turned pale. She was breaking. The cold was swallowing her alive. She looked at her child again. His eyes opened slightly, weak and glassy. He was alive, but for how long? her vision blurred. Tears filled her eyes, but they froze before falling. She tried to stay awake, but her strength was fading fast. She leaned back against the icy rock, clutching her child to her chest. For the first time, hopelessness touched her heart like a knife. She whispered to herself, no clothes, no hope. She thought of the future she dreamed for her child, the rivers, the forests, the laughter of her people. Would he never see them? Would his life end here, in this cruel emptiness? She shook her head. No. She would not let him go. She refused to accept it. Even if she had to give her last breath, she would fight for him. The night dragged on. The fire finally died, leaving only ash. The valley turned black again, the wind screaming louder, as if mocking her. The mother tightened her grip on the child. Her body was ice, her strength almost gone. Yet, in her heart, a single flame of will burned. Then, again the sound. Footsteps. Closer this time. Slow, heavy, steady. Her eyes shot open. She lifted her head, searching the darkness. A shape moved beyond the shadows. A figure. Her heart raced with fear and hope. Was it death coming for them, or salvation? The figure drew closer. A sound of boots crushing ice echoed. The mother's body shook harder, not from the cold this time, but from terror. She pulled. Her child close, hiding his face against her chest. The footsteps stopped. The figure stood still, only a few steps away now. The mother looked up. Her eyes met the stranger's. A human. His face was pale in the cold, his breath fogging the air. His eyes widened at the sight of her, a trembling alien mother. Naked and broken, holding a weak child near the ashes of a dying fire. For a moment, time froze. Both of them stared at each other, silent, unsure. The mother's lips moved. No words came out. She had no strength left to speak. The human took a slow step forward. His eyes softened. His hands reached to his jacket. The mother's vision blurred again. She felt her strength slipping. But as she looked at the human, one thought rose in her heart. Maybe hope is not gone yet. A distant light. The night was silent again, except for the heavy sound of breathing. The alien mother clutched her child against her chest, her body weak, her lips trembling. The fire had died, leaving only cold ash and fading smoke. She had no clothes, no warmth, no strength. And yet, something new had entered the darkness. A presence, a figure. The human stood only a few steps away. His boots pressed into the ice with slow weight. His breath came out in clouds of white mist. His eyes were wide, uncertain, as he looked at the strange sight before him within, trembling. Alien mother, her bare skin cut by the cold, and in her arms a child too fragile to cry. The mother blinked, her vision blurring, her heart pounding. She did not know who this was. She did not know if he would help or harm. All she knew was that someone had finally found them. The human hesitated. He had never seen such a creature before. Her skin was marked with faint glowing patterns, scars of another world. Her eyes were large, filled with pain and fear. She did not look like an enemy. She looked like a mother fighting death itself. For a long moment, neither moved. The wind howled between them, carrying the silence like a heavy weight. Then the child stirred. A weak sound escaped his lips, a soft, broken cry. The human's eyes softened. Something inside him shifted. This was not a threat. This was desperation. This was life on the edge of ending slowly. Carefully, the human reached for his jacket. His movements were slow, deliberate, so she would not panic. He pulled the thick fabric off his shoulders. The mother's eyes followed his hands. Her body stiffened. Fear shot through her. Was he preparing a weapon? Was he about to strike? But then, he kneeled down. He opened the jacket and gently placed it over the child. The warmth wrapped around the boy instantly. His small body relaxed, his breathing steadied. A faint color returned to his skin. The mother's eyes filled with tears. She looked at the human, shocked. This stranger, this alien to her world, was saving her child. The human spoke, his voice calm, steady. She did not understand his words. The language was foreign, strange. But his tone was soft, kind, without threat. He pointed to the child. Then to his own chest, as if to say, safe, warm, live. The mother could not reply. Her throat was dry, her strength almost gone. But her eyes spoke for her. They glowed with gratitude, even through the pain. The human pulled a small bag from his side. He opened it and brought out food-dried rations, simple and rough. He broke a piece and tried to hand it to the mother. Her hands shook as she reached, but she did not take it for herself. Instead, she touched the child's lips gently, trying to feed him first. The boy was too weak to chew, but the human understood. He crushed the food, mixed it with water from a flask, and gave it slowly. The child swallowed. His chest rose a little stronger with each breath. The mother's heart swelled. For the first time since the night began, she felt something new. Hope. The human watched her carefully. His face was calm, but his eyes carried questions. Who was she? Why was she here? Why was she alone, half dead, with a child in this frozen wasteland? But he did not ask. Not yet. The fire was gone, but he had matches. He gathered what little he could, dry scraps from his pack, bits of material he carried. Soon, a small fire burned again, stronger than before. Warm light spread across the cold ground. The mother leaned closer, holding her child to the flames, wrapping him in the human's jacket. Her body still froze in the air, but she did not care. Her child was safe, and that was enough. The human sat across from her. The firelight danced on his face. He looked at her, and she looked at him. Two beings from different worlds, staring into each other's eyes, bound by the same need, the will to protect life. The silence was heavy, but not empty. It was filled with something unspoken. Trust, fear, curiosity. The child slept again, this time warmer, steadier. His small chest rose and fell in rhythm. The mother finally allowed herself to breathe. But in the distance, the valley was not silent anymore. A sound moved across the dark. Not the wind. Not the snow. Something else. The human stiffened. He turned his head, listening. His hand moved toward the weapon strapped to his side. The mother sensed it too. Her eyes widened. She knew. That sound, it was not friend. It was not hope. Shadows shifted on the edge of the firelight. Shapes, moving. Watching, the human rose to his feet, his eyes hard. He looked at the mother, then at the child. He understood now. The danger was not over. The fire crackled. The child slept. The mother trembled. The human gripped his weapon, his jaw tight. In the distance, the shadows grew larger. The night was not done testing them, and as the first growl echoed through the valley, one thought burned in all their hearts. This was only the beginning. The human's choice. The valley was alive with sound now. Not the calm sound of wind, but something darker. Growls rolled through the night air, low and heavy, echoing against the frozen rocks. The human stood tall, his weapon ready in his hands. The firelight flickered against his face, painting shadows across his eyes. He listened. Carefully, his body tense, his breath slow. He had heard creatures before, hunters of the night that lived in the emptiness of this world. They came when the weak were near, when prey could no longer fight back. The alien mother held her child tightly. Her large eyes glowed faintly, fear shining inside them. She knew what those sounds meant. She had heard them before. She had run from them, hidden from them. But now, with no strength left, she could not run anymore. The child stirred in her arms, sensing the danger. His small hands clutched at her skin, his weak body trembling even in sleep. The mother's heart pounded. She pressed him closer, shielding him with her body. The human looked at her. He could see the terror in her eyes, the way she held her. Child, as if he was the last thing keeping her alive. He felt a weight in his chest. This was not just survival for her. This was everything. The growls grew louder. Shadows moved at the edge of the firelight. Yellow eyes blinked in the dark, watching, waiting. Shapes of beasts circled them slowly, claws scraping against ice, teeth flashing when the firelight touched. Then the human clenched his weapon tighter. He had faced danger before, but never like this. He was alone, in a world not his own, protecting beings not of his kind. He could turn away. He could leave them to their fate. After all, they were strangers. Not his responsibility, but something inside him refused. He remembered the way the mother had looked at her child. How she had given everything, her clothes, her warmth, her life for him. He had seen that kind of sacrifice before, once, long ago, on his own world. A memory flashed in his mind, his sister shivering in the cold, wrapping him in her coat when they were children. He had lived because she had chosen to protect him. Now, in this frozen valley, he was standing in the same place she once had. The beasts growled again, closer now. The human's jaw tightened. He looked down at the mother and child. Oh, she was weak, broken, yet her eyes begged him silently. She could not speak his language, but her plea was clear. Save him. He made his choice. With a sharp breath, the human stepped forward, placing himself between the fire and the approaching beasts. He raised his weapon high, the metal gleaming in the flames. His voice roared across the valley, loud and fierce, a sound of defiance. The beasts froze. Their eyes narrowed. They had expected weak prey, but instead they found a fighter. The human fired his weapon. The blast echoed through the night, breaking the silence like thunder. A creature howled in pain, retreating into the shadows. The mother flinched at the sound, holding her child tighter. Eyes widened as she watched the human fight. She had never seen such power, such fire. Another beast leaped forward, claws raised. The human swung his weapon, striking hard, pushing it back. He stood firm, his body a shield, his will unbroken. The firelight flickered wildly, painting the scene in red and gold. Growls, gunfire, heavy breathing. The valley became a battlefield. The mother's heart raced as she watched. She wanted to move, to help, but her body was too weak. All she could do was clutch her child and pray. The human fought like a storm. Every step was filled with purpose. Every strike was for them, for the fragile child, for the desperate mother, for hope itself. The beast circled again, snarling. But they hesitated now. The fire burned brighter. The human stood taller, and his eyes shone with something they did not understand. Determination. One by one, the shadows pulled back. The growls faded into the distance. The valley fell silent again, broken only by the crackle of the fire. The human lowered his weapon slowly, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. His body ached, but he stood strong. He had chosen, and his choice had kept them alive. He turned back toward the mother. She stared at him, her eyes wide with awe. She could not speak, but her tears said everything. She had found someone who would fight for her child even when he had no reason to. The human walked back to the fire. He knelt beside her, lowering his weapon. His hands reached out gently, checking the child. The boy still breathed, steady now, safe in the warmth of the jacket. The mother touched the human's hand with trembling fingers. For a brief moment, two worlds connected. She had no words, but her touch carried meaning. "Thank you. You are hope." The human nodded. He did not need to understand her language. He already knew. The fire burned steady. The beasts were gone for now. The valley was quiet once more. But the night was not over. The cold was still there. The danger was not gone. And the human knew this was only the first test. He looked out into the darkness, his grip tightening on his weapon. His choice had been made. He would not leave them. Not ever. Beside him, the alien mother held her child close. Her body still shook, but her heart carried new strength. She was no longer alone. Together, in the middle of the frozen valley. They sat by the fire-ran alien mother, her fragile child, and the human who had chosen to fight for them. Above them, the clouds began to shift. For the first time in the long night, a single star broke through the darkness. It was faint, but it was light, and for them, it was enough. A fragile bantha. Fire burned steady now, glowing softly against the frozen ground. Smoke curled upward, disappearing into the dark sky. The human sat close, his weapon resting at his side, his eyes still sharp as he scanned the shadows. Danger might return at any moment. Across from him, the alien mother cradled her child. The boy slept in the warmth of the human's jacket, his chest rising slowly but stronger than before. His tiny face glowed in the firelight, no longer pale as death. The mother's own body trembled. The cold bit into her bare skin like knives, yet she ignored her pain. Her eyes never left her child, as if she feared he might vanish if she looked. Away the human studied her in silence. He could see the faint scars across her skin, marks of hunger, cold, and sacrifice. He thought about how much she had already given. No clothes, no shelter, no hope. And still she had chosen to fight for her child's life. The wind howled again, shaking the fire. The human leaned forward, shielding it with his hands. He added more scraps from his pack to keep it alive. The flames grew brighter, pushing the darkness back. The mother's eyes lifted slowly, meeting his. For a moment, the fire reflected in both their eyes, connecting them across the silence. She wanted to speak, to tell him of her gratitude, her fear, her story. But the words would not come. Her language was not his. A voice was weak. All she could do was look at him and hope he understood. The human did. He reached into his bag and pulled out a flask. He held it out toward her carefully, his hand open, his movements gentle. She hesitated, unsure. His eyes softened, and he nodded once, slowly, urging her to take it. Her hands trembled as she reached out. Their fingers touched for a brief second, warm skin against cold. She pulled the flask close and drank. The water burned her dry throat, filling her with a strength she had almost forgotten. She gave a little to her child as well, letting drops fall against his lips. He stirred, swallowing weakly. Tears welled in her eyes. She looked back at the human. She whispered something in her alien tongue, sounds soft, broken, yet heavy with meaning. The human did not understand the words, but he did not need to. He simply nodded again, quietly, as if answering, "I hear you." The firelight flickered between them. For the first time since the long night began, the silence was not heavy with fear. It was softer now. A fragile thread of trust had been woven in the cold. The child coughed, his voice faint. The mother pressed her lips to his forehead, rocking him gently. The human watched. He felt a strange pull in his chest, something he had not felt in a long time. On his own world, he had known loss. He had seen families torn apart, seen children left with no one. He had promised himself never to care again, never to feel that pain. Yet here he was, caring for beings he had only just met. He wondered why. Perhaps it was the way the mother had looked at her child, with a love so fierce it had burned brighter than the fire. Perhaps it was because he saw himself in the boys, small, weak, saved only by the sacrifice of another. Or perhaps it was something deeper, something he could not explain. The night dragged on. The wind grew colder. The human placed more scraps into the fire, keeping it alive. The mother leaned closer, holding her child near the flames. She still trembled, but the jacket covered the boy well. At one point, the human stood and walked. To her, slowly, carefully, he removed another layer from his gear and placed it around her shoulders. Her eyes widened. She stared at him, shocked. She tried to refuse, shaking her head weakly. She wanted him to keep it. He needed it too. But he placed it firmly around her, his expression calm, his eyes steady. For a long moment, she looked at him. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they did not freeze. She lowered her head in silence, clutching the cloth close. The fire cracked. The wind howled, and the two sat side by side. They did not speak, but something unspoken grew stronger. Between them, it was not friendship yet. It was not full trust. But it was something rare, something fragile, a bond formed not by words, but by sacrifice, by choice, by survival. The child stirred in his sleep, making a soft sound. Both the mother and the human turned their heads at the same time, watching him. Their eyes met again, and for the first time, the human gave a small smile. It was faint, almost hidden, but it was real. The mother's lips trembled. She could not smile. She had no strength left, but her eyes glowed softly. As if answering his dot outside the circle of fire, the valley stretched wide and empty. Shadows moved far away, silent hunters waiting for weakness. The danger had not ended, but within the fire's glow, there was warmth. A fragile bond had been born. The human did not know where tomorrow would lead. The mother did not know if her child would survive the long night. But in that moment, they were not alone, and sometimes, in the heart of darkness, even the smallest bond can be enough to keep hope alive. The silent threat, the fire, still burned, but the night was far from peaceful. Its glow flickered against the icy rocks, pushing back only a small circle of darkness. Beyond that circle, shadows moved. The alien mother leaned close to her child, wrapping him tighter in the jacket. He slept, his breathing shallow but steady. Her own body trembled, though the cloth the human had given her kept her alive for now. She listened carefully to every sound. The valley was never truly silent. Something was always out there. The human sat across from her, his weapon resting across his knees. His eyes scanned the dark, sharp, and unblinking. The beasts had left earlier, but he knew they were not gone. Predators never gave up so easily. They circled, waiting for weakness, waiting for the fire to die. The wind shifted. A faint growl drifted. Through the night, the mother's heart jumped. She pressed her child closer, her eyes wide. The human heard it too. His grip tightened on the weapon. He leaned forward, listening. The sound came again, closer this time, low and hungry. He slowly rose to his feet. The firelight cast his shadow tall across the frozen ground. He looked into the blackness, searching for movement. And there it was. Two glowing eyes, staring. Back at him, the mother gasped softly, fear rising in her chest. She knew those eyes. She had seen them in the past, creatures of the frost, hunters that never stopped. They moved silently, fast and deadly. She had lost friends to them before. Now they had found her again. The human raised his weapon, his breath slow, controlled. The creature growled, stepping closer. Its form was massive, covered in thick fur and sharp claws. Behind it, more eyes appeared. Not one beast, many. The fire crackled. The mother's body stiffened. Her child stirred, sensing her fear. She rocked him gently, whispering soft sounds in her tongue, trying to keep him calm. But her eyes never left the shadows. The human fired a warning shot into the darkness. The blast echoed across the valley, shaking the silence. The beasts paused, but only for a moment. Their growls deepened, and their shapes moved closer. Circling the fire, the human stepped back slightly, closer to the mother and child. He was outnumbered. He knew it. But he stood firm, his body a wall between them and the threat. The mother looked up at him, her eyes pleading. She could not fight, but she understood the danger. Her child's life, her own life, they were in. His hands now. The beasts moved lower, their bodies tense, ready to leap. Their eyes glowed brighter, reflecting hunger and rage. The human's heart pounded, but his face stayed calm. He had been in danger before. He had faced hopeless odds, but never with lives this fragile behind him. The fire sputtered suddenly, sending sparks into the air. The beasts flinched, but did not retreat. The human crouched quickly, throwing more scraps into the flames. The fire rose again, pushing them back for a second. But he knew it would not last. The mother's hand shook. As she reached out, touching his arm, her voice came out weak, broken. She spoke in her language, words he did not understand. But her meaning was clear. Don't leave us, please. He nodded once. His jaw tightened. He would not leave. The creatures began to circle faster. Da! The sound of claws on ice echoed from every side. The human turned, watching them carefully, trying to track their movements. He could not fight them all at once. If one slipped past him, the mother and child would not survive. The air grew heavy. The fire hissed, fighting against the wind. Every second felt like an eternity. The largest beast stepped forward, its growl louder than the rest. Its body was massive, muscles shifting under thick fur. Its teeth glistened in the firelight. Slowly, it lowered its head, preparing to strike. The human tightened his grip on the weapon. His muscles tensed, ready, and then the sound broke. The night a howl, long and sharp, echoing across the valley. The beasts froze. Their eyes turned upward, ears twitching. The howl came again, from far in the distance. The human's eyes narrowed. He did not know what it meant, but the beasts did. They growled low, restless, their bodies shifting. Then slowly, one by one, they pulled back into the shadows. Their glowing eyes disappeared into the black. The valley fell silent once more. The human did not lower his weapon immediately. He waited, listening, making sure they were gone. Only when the silence stretched long did he relax, his shoulders dropping with a heavy breath. The mother exhaled shakily, relief flooding her body. She pressed her lips to her child's head, whispering soft thanks in her tongue. The human sat again, his weapon still close. His eyes stayed on the horizon. The beasts were gone, but he knew they would return. The howl had driven them away, but for how long? The mother looked at him, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and trust. She did not know what the howl meant. Either was it another danger, or was it something else? The fire burned low again, its glow soft against their faces. The night pressed in, heavy and endless. The child stirred, opening his small eyes for a moment. He looked up at his mother, then at the fire. Before drifting back into sleep, the human and the alien mother sat in silence, both listening, both waiting. The bond between them had grown stronger, but so had the danger outside. The silent threat was not gone. It was only waiting hope in the unknown cliffhanger. The valley was quiet again, but it was not peace. The silence after the howl was heavy, filled with questions. The beasts had retreated, yet the human knew they had not vanished. Predators never left for long. They waited. They watched. The fire burned low, its glow weak against the frozen night. The human crouched close, feeding it with the last scraps of fuel he carried. Sparks rose into the black sky, disappearing like fading stars. The alien mother sat behind him, her child held close to her chest. The boy's breathing was soft now, steadier than before, but still fragile. Every small rise of his chest felt like a victory. She rocked him gently, whispering quiet sounds in her alien tongue. The words were not for the human. They were for her child's promises of love, of protection, of a future she was not sure they would ever see. The human turned his head, watching her for a moment. He could not understand her words, but he could feel their weight. He saw the way. Her eyes softened when she looked at her child, the way her hands clutched him as if she feared the night would take him away. He looked at the horizon. Darkness stretched endless. The clouds above did not break. No stars, no moonlight. Only emptiness. And yet, somewhere deep inside him, a thought rose. They cannot end here. Not like this. The mother's eyes lifted to him suddenly. She pointed toward the distance, her hand trembling. He followed her gaze. Far across the valley, a faint light flickered. Not firelight, something else. The human narrowed his eyes. Ah! Settlement? A beacon? Or another danger? He could not tell. But it was there, distant glow in the endless dark. The mother's eyes filled with desperate hope. She whispered something, her voice breaking, her hands clutching the child tighter. He understood what she wanted. She wanted to reach that light. The human hesitated. The valley was dangerous. The beasts would follow. And yet, he knew staying here meant certain death. The fire would die. The cold would claim them. He looked back at the light. It flickered again, faint but real. It was their only chance. He made his choice. The human stood, pulling the strap of his weapon across his shoulder. He turned to the mother, pointing at the glow in the distance. His voice was calm but firm. "We move." She did not understand his words, but she understood his gesture. Her eyes widened. Fear and hope clashed inside her. Could she walk? Could she carry her child across the frozen land? The human saw her hesitation. He knelt beside her, holding out his arms toward the child. His eyes spoke clearly. "Let me carry him." The mother froze. Her heart raced. Every instinct told her not. To give her child away, not to a stranger, not to someone she had only just met. But she looked at the human again. She remembered how he had covered the boy with his jacket, how he had fought the beasts, how he had kept the fire alive. Her eyes filled with tears. Slowly, with trembling hands, she placed the child in his arms. The human cradled the boy carefully, his movements gentle, almost reverent. The child stirred softly, but did not cry. The human pulled the jacket tighter around him, keeping him warm. The mother stood weakly, her legs shaking. The human reached out, steadying her with his free hand. Together, they turned toward the faint light on the horizon. The valley stretched before them, endless and dark. The wind howled, carrying distant growls that echoed through the night. The beasts were not gone. They were watching. Waiting, the human took the first step forward. The mother followed, her body trembling, but her will unbroken. Each step was heavy, the cold biting into their skin, the ground sharp and cruel. But the light in the distance gave them strength. Hours passed, the fire behind them was long gone. Only their footsteps broke the silence. The child slept in the human's arms. His tiny breath, a fragile rhythm in the cold air. The mother walked beside him, her hand brushing his arm now and then. As if to remind herself he was real, that he was still here. The distant glow grew brighter with every step. Hope rose in their hearts. And then the sound. A howl. Long, sharp, closer than before. The beasts had followed. The human stopped. His body stiffened, his grip tightening on the child. He turned, his eyes scanning the darkness. The mother's breath caught in her throat. She clutched the human's arm, her eyes wide with terror. Shapes moved at the edge of their vision. Yellow eyes blinked in the shadows. The hunters had returned. The human's jaw tightened. He shifted the child carefully into one arm and raised his weapon with the other. His eyes burned with resolve. The mother pressed close to him, her body shaking, her voice whispering desperate words in her alien tongue. She knew the beasts would not let them go so easily. The light on the horizon flickered again. Brighter, now but far, still far. The beasts growled, their bodies tense, ready to strike. The human raised his weapon, standing firm. The mother clutched. His side, her child asleep between them. The night was about to break open, and as the first shadow leaped forward, teeth flashing in the fireless dark, one truth echoed in both their hearts. Hope was not enough. They would have to fight for it.